It's finally happening. We're headed to Canada for the first time in 2026. We will be in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where the face of Canadian MMA, Mike Malott, will be taking on the former welterweight title challenger, Gilbert Burns, in the main event. We got a 6-fight main card on deck. And if you can't tell, I'm absolutely pumped. I'm excited to get back to work. It's my first desk show since my fight in March. I love Canada. I get to go curling for the first time on Friday. I'm going to eat poutine. I'm going to drink Labatt's. I'm going to soak it up. And best of all, I got the best seat in the house to watch some fights. So let's get into some predictions for this weekend's fight card. First fight on the main card, we have Dennis Buzukja taking on Marcio Barbosa. Listen, this is going to be the hardest fight for me to pick because rarely do I ever pick against a Serra-Longo guy. Listen, it's not just because it's one of my allies within the sport of MMA, but I just feel like everybody from that team is so well trained. But in this particular matchup, I have to be true to my job and give you guys my honest opinion. This is a really hard fight for Dennis Buzukja. His last fight was August 24th of 2024. And if you look at Marcio Barbosa, his last fight was August 26, 2025. So his strength of schedule, maybe not as heavy as Dennis Buzukja's, but he's fought more frequently. And when you talk about Barbosa and what he brings into his fights, he's a guy that's definitely a finisher, but he's not an impatient finisher. He's not a guy that's going to rush you in on a straight line and make a ton of mistakes. What he does is he walks you down with soft pressure, and he really kind of lumbers side to side because he's loading up his best punch, which is that left hook. So he's not going to spam it a lot, but what he's going to do is as he presses you forward and rolls side to side, if you back up on a straight line, you can't stop at the fence. So at some point, you have to choose which angle you're going to cut. Which way are you going to move laterally? And a lot of times, he will get guys to circle into his left hook, and he does such a good job loading it. And he does a good job not just throwing it flat, but he throws a really nice shovel hook as well. And I saw that in his last fight in LFA, and I believe that was against Felipe Oliveira. It was an absolutely surgical shot. He'll throw longer combinations, but he always punctuates them with that left hook. So that's what Dennis is going to have to watch out for. And in some of Dennis's previous fights, at times, and I don't want to be too nitpicky, sometimes Dennis, when he throws his jab, that right hand will come down. And at times, even in his stance, he leaves a big gap for that left hook. So for Dennis, if he can get this fight out of the first round and start to shake off some of that ring rust, I think he'll have a better shot to win this fight. But for Barbosa, I don't think he's going to rush the finish. I see him walking Dennis down, not letting him get comfortable and keeping Dennis from getting his feet underneath him. I see Barbosa winning this fight, but I do think if Dennis doesn't get finished in the third round, he's going to have some big moments because he's going to shake that ring rust and get himself back into the fight. Next up, we have Gage Young versus Thiago Moises. Look, Thiago Moises, only 31 years old, has already fought the who's who at 155 pounds. This guy's fought Islam Makhachev. This guy's fought Joel Alvarez. He's fought a lot of very, very high caliber opposition. And when you talk about Gage Young, very young in his UFC career, no pun intended. When you look at his Dana White's Contender Series fight, he goes the distance with Quillen Salkeld. And look where Quillen is at now. Quillen has finished every single person he has faced in the octagon. Gage Young gets re-signed, short notice, loses to Evan Elder, bounces back with a win over Mahashate, and I was there for that fight. That was in Shanghai last summer. This is a very close fight if you look at the odds, but I'm not looking at the odds. I'm looking at the skills. For Gage Young, he's going to have an advantage that I feel like isn't completely necessary for him to win fights, but it's what favors him well to have success, and that's speed. In the Evan Elder fight, he didn't have a speed advantage. Quillen Salkeld, definitely not I wouldn't say as fast as Evan Elder, but definitely had a speed advantage over Gage Young. And both Evan and Quillen are very physical fighters, so they're fast and they're physical. And I feel like for Thiago Moises, he's got great ground skills, phenomenal jiu-jitsu player. He's a world champion, but he's not the fastest guy. And I don't feel like he's the most physical guy. A lot of times it's a lot of single shots, and you know he's going to want to throw a lot of calf kicks. And for Gage Young, I think he's going to be very aware of that. And I think that for him, Gage Young's first two fights. First, he fights Evan Elder in Kansas City, pretty close to home for him. Big energy in that crowd, short notice fight. You know, you got the octagon jitters going on. That's a lot to take in for your first fight. Then he goes on the other side of the spectrum, fights in China against somebody that's native to that area where the crowd is in the favor of his opponent. That's two big high energy environments. And I feel like Gage Young in that fight against Mahashate, it took him a little bit to get comfortable, but once he did, he really started to shine. I feel like this is the perfect setting for Gage Young to finally get into a rhythm and settle into his career here in the UFC. I think him being in Canada and fighting a Brazilian, the crowd's not really going to be favoring one person and going to be against the other. So I think for him, this is the perfect setting for him to get more comfortable and really start to build some momentum, because I see a lot of talent, especially with the boxing. He's a very technical boxer, and he does a good job. He'll move forward and he'll get you to press him, and he will draw you into shots. He will walk you into punches. He's a brilliant boxer, and he's got wrestling up his sleeve. So for me, it's going to be a very close contest, but I see Gage Young being to edge this out, being the more well-rounded fighter and having the speed advantage. Next up, we have Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Karine Silva. Listen, I'm just going to come out and say it right away. I'm taking Jasmine Jasudavicius, and I will be honest with you. The vast majority of the time, Jasmine Jasudavicius is in any fight. I don't care who the odds are or who she's fighting. 10 out of 10 times I'm picking her, and I'll tell you why. I've been in the training room with Jasmine Jasudavicius, and I've trained alongside some of the, Hall of Fame world champions, some of the nastiest, meanest fighters that we've all known in the sport. Jasmine's the meanest person I've ever seen in the training room. I have seen her in sparring, and I'm not going to name the names of the people that she sparred, but her taking these girls down, getting full mount, dropping elbows with her elbow pads, going full fight simulation in her training. And I just feel like for Jasmine, coming off that loss over Manon Fiorot, she is going to want to bounce back in the worst way. Like, I feel bad for whoever they put in front of her, because she wants to right the ship. At one point in time, Jasmine was on a 5-fight win streak. She was one fight away from potentially fighting for the title. If she beat Manon, and I had her picked in that fight, and I know that's a hard fight for anybody, the tenacity and the intangibles that Jasmine possesses are like something I've never seen in the training room. And her coming from Niagara Top Team, everybody from that camp is so well-rounded. She's very, very good with her striking. She's great with her wrestling. I feel like that's kind of the ace up the sleeve for all the people that are from Niagara Top Team, is they're all really, really good wrestlers. They're good on the wall. They're good on the mat. She has great positional awareness. And I just feel like she's going to just apply so much pressure to Karine Silva and just not give her any room to breathe. I think Jasmine's going to win with her positional grappling. I think that Karine is going to want to go for submissions, and I think that Jasmine's, her takedown defense is going to be on point. So if Silva wants to pursue the ground game, I don't think she's going to be able to have the choice of taking this fight to the mat. It's going to be up to Jasmine. Jasmine's going to have the ability to dictate where this fight goes. So Jasmine decides to implement her wrestling. I believe she's going to be able to positionally dominate Silva and not get caught in any of the submission attempts from Karine from her back. I don't see Karine having the wrestling to take Jasmine down, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Jasmine wants to keep this on the feet. But moral of the story, Jasmine wins this fight any way she wants, whether she wants to keep it on the feet or take it to the mat. I think she's going to dominate this fight. Next up, we got Mandel Nallo taking on Jai Herbert. Listen, Jai Herbert is a very technical striker coming out of England. This is a guy that almost dethroned one of our pound-for-pound best fighters in the world right now in Ilia Topuria. I mean, he had him almost all but knocked out. And of course, we've all seen that comeback from Ilia Topuria where he came back and knocked out Jai Herbert. But listen, Jai Herbert, a very busy striker. His last fight was against Chris Padilla, where he lost a split decision. We saw how Chris Padilla can fight. A lot of pace, a lot of volume, and Jai was able to handle that well. But taking on Mandel Nallo, Nallo's not a volume type of striker. I called Mandel Nallo's fight on Contender Series, and it was one of those fights where I had to pat myself on the back because I kind of called the shot. I said, listen, his opponent's going to have to watch out for that short piston of a right hand that Nallo has. And Nallo, coming from TriStar, you know he's going to have a very educated jab. The jab and the low kicks, he definitely uses those as a segue to get to his right hand. He'll compromise your legs. He'll establish the jab. Once you start to rush past those long-range weapons, that right hand, it's short, it's fast, and he throws it quick, but he almost pulls it back even faster. So it keeps him very, very defensively responsible. And I think that right hand's going to be the big difference maker in this fight. For Nallo, I'm not comparing him to Amin Zahabi, but I kind of am, because they're both kind of in the same boat where, listen, Mandel Nallo got signed from Contender Series on a brilliant win, but he's 36 years old. Really, they're not looking for older guys on Contender Series, but they saw so much potential in him that they signed him. And I compare him to Amin Zahabi because Amin didn't get into the UFC until he was in his early to mid 30s, and look at where he's at now. And they come from the same camp. So it's not like, while they may not have been the most active fighters, think about the amount of knowledge that they have acquired over the years. You're training alongside Firas Zahabi, one of the best tacticians in the game in terms of coaches. Oh yeah, and George St. Pierre is in that gym. So you get all this time firsthand training with George St. Pierre, working on game planning techniques and things of that sort. I just think there's so much to Mandel Nallo that we haven't seen. And I feel like Jai Herbert is the perfect opponent for him to showcase his skills, just to show the world what he's truly made of. A lot of people watch Contender Series, but I feel like this is going to be his chance to really kind of show himself to the world. And I see him getting a stoppage. I'm taking Mandel Nallo by knockout. All right, let's get into our co-main event. Outside of Mike Malott versus Gilbert Burns, this is the fight that I'm most excited for. You got two very, very dynamic strikers. Kyler Phillips, nicknamed the Matrix, known for his spinning attacks and his wide arsenal of skills that he possesses. Very, very dangerous on the mat, very dangerous with his stand-up, very good with his wrestling, just a very, very well-rounded fighter. And for Charles Jourdain, he's like so smooth with his striking. He's got the smooth head kicks. He's got the nice flying knees. And then he's got that slick guillotine that we saw against Davey Grant. I was sat octagon side for that fight. I tell you what, Vancouver, the roof absolutely popped off when he got that guillotine choke. I'm pretty sure I posted the reaction on my Instagram. It was incredible. Now, when you look at the strength of schedule for both of these guys have fought absolute hitters. But when you look at Charles Jourdain, he spent the bulk of his career at 145 pounds, found his way down to 135, which I was very skeptical about. I wasn't sure if that was the right move for him, but I couldn't have been any more wrong because since he's gotten down to 135, he's been absolutely brilliant. He stopped Victor Henry, who's a highly touted guy, over 30 pro fights, and then he turned around Davey Grant. Now he finds himself in a higher profile fight against Kyler Phillips. And for Kyler, this is a guy that's danced in the rankings a little bit here and there. Had some tough luck as of late. Fought Vinicius Oliveira, lost a 3-round decision, and then lost a decision to Rob Font. But nonetheless, the guy is very, very skilled. So he's taking a step back from the rankings, and he's going to give somebody a shot. Now, when I break this fight down, I lean towards the side of momentum because I feel like these guys possess a lot of the same skills. I think if you go skill for skill, it's pretty even until you get to the wrestling. I think Kyler Phillips definitely has an edge in the wrestling department, but there's no better way to equalize a situation that involves wrestling when you have a nasty guillotine. And Charles Jourdain has one of the best guillotines in the UFC. So for Kyler Phillips, if he wants to implement his wrestling, he's going to have to do it from the clinch to avoid that guillotine from Charles Jourdain. The way that I see this fight panning out, I think we're going to see a striking affair. I don't think it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out brawl. I think we're going to see a lot of good technical striking. I think both of these guys are going to have their moments, but there's just something that tells me Charles Jourdain moving down to 135 pounds, I feel like we're going to see him continue to get better and better as he settles into this weight class. I believe he's going to be a ranked fighter by the end of the year. And I think that in this fight, he's going to have to go through a little bit of adversity. I think that Kyler Phillips is going to have his moments early, but I see Charles Jourdain putting on a masterclass, and I see him winning a 29-28 decision. I see him pocketing the last 2 rounds. But if there is a finish, it's going to be a Charles Jourdain guillotine. So I'm going with the Canadian. I'm going with Charles Jourdain in the co-main event. Let's get to the fucking meat and potatoes, boys and girls. Let's talk fucking Gilbert Burns and Mike Malott. Let's get into this main event. I absolutely love this fight. I am a big fan of both of these guys. You got Gilbert Burns coming in with a 22-9 record, a guy that wrecked shop at 155 pounds before moving up and punched his ticket to a title fight against Kamaru Usman. Things didn't go his way, but nonetheless, this is the guy that got to the top of the mountain at 170 pounds. And you got Mike Malott, the guy that took a break from his MMA career to be the striking coach of Team Alpha Male and then decided to come back. And look at what he's done since he's come back. He's been near perfect in the octagon. He is must-see TV, whether you're just a fan of him because he's Canadian or you're a fan of MMA. I feel like Mike Malott's slowly becoming like one of the more beloved fighters on the roster. He's got a great style. He's a humble guy, and he's the face of Canadian mixed martial arts right now. So let's talk about Gilbert Burns first. Gilbert Burns is a multiple-time world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is absolutely brilliant on the mats. And if you ask Gilbert why he doesn't grapple more, because he really intends to deliver fan-friendly fights. And he's got big power, and we've seen it in a lot of his fights. He's got a thunderous overhand right. He's got a great left hook. We saw him really place that left hook very nicely on Damian Maia's chin and stop the former title challenger in Damian Maia. But for Gilbert, he's run on tough times as of late. If you go by the numbers, 39 years old. Who am I to say? Because I'm 38. But there's a big difference in his last 4 fights and my 4 fights. And I say that respectively, because I have all the respect in the world for Gilbert Burns. I'm not saying that he can't win because his last 4 fights have been worse than mine, but the caliber of competition is so much different. I mean, I'm being honest. Like Bilal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady, Michael Morales, that's much higher caliber opposition that I face at my age at 38. But this has nothing to do with me. This is just a hard fight for Gilbert Burns because when you have that number next to your name, it doesn't matter if you're on a win streak or a losing streak. You have to either fight the guys with a number next to their name or give a shot to the guys that deserve a chance to fight up in the rankings. And Mike Malott is that guy. He cracked the rankings with the win over Kevin Holland. Then there was a shakeup with Shavkat left. Other guys are kind of moving in and out. And now at this point in time, Mike Malott does not have a number next to his name, and Gilbert Burns is 11. So this is a big opportunity for Mike Malott to jump up the rankings, maybe crack the top 10. More than likely with the win, he'll land around 12 or 13. But when you talk about the way that Mike fights, something that Mike Malott does so much better than a lot of people we see in the UFC is how he utilizes his stance changes. A lot of times you will see fighters change stances for no reason, or they're way too predictable. You'll see a lot of orthodox fighters, they'll change to southpaw just to throw the left kick. It's literally something that you see too often. But for Mike Malott, every stance change has a purpose to it. Like if you go back to the Charles Radke fight, the way he was able to change stances, get his head off the center line, and land that fight-ending hook. I mean, he is so good. And a lot of times, if you pressure him, that opens up the floodgates for him to change his stances and take the angles to land those punches. So for Gilbert Burns, the best shot at him winning this fight is I feel like he has to, as much as he wants to please the fans, I feel like Gilbert Burns needs to take this fight to the mat and make this a grappling affair. Mike Malott's got good wrestling. He's got good takedown defense. I touched on this when we talked about Jasmine Jasdivisius. People from Niagara Top Team, they are very, very good in the wrestling department, offensively and defensively. But Gilbert Burns, his grappling is on another level. Gilbert wants to give himself the best path to victory in this fight. I feel like he needs to get this fight to the mat. When we saw it in his fight with Sean Brady, he definitely had his moments. The wrestling is there. The grappling is there. It's always been there. But he just wants to deliver fan-friendly fights. And I just don't think that that is the fight for him to do this. I'm sure Gilbert Burns wants nothing more than to right the ship. He still has the skills. I know that he's very diligent with his training. Gilbert Burns, you know, if you watch some of these countdown shows, the way he logs his training, very purposeful. Everything has an intent. And he logs everything. He takes notes. He keeps journals from all of his camps. This guy is truly one of the fighters that leaves no stone left unturned. But the one thing he needs to do in this fight is he needs to realize if he wants to win, he's got to take this fight to the mat. But even with all that being said, I just don't think this is the fight for Gilbert to right the ship. And I feel like I keep saying right the ship too much, guys. I'm sorry. That's just my quote of the day. But I feel like for Mike Malott, he's not going to give Gilbert Burns something that feels good. He's not going to give him that win. I think Mike Malott has a lot of momentum right now. I think the one blip on his record here in the UFC against Neil Magny, I think changed a lot of things to his game. I think he gained more respect for his opponents, not just going out there and just trying to go gung-ho on a first-round finish. It's like he almost gained more respect for the game. Not that he didn't have respect for the game already. He probably has a lot of it as an MMA coach down at Team Alpha Male, but I feel like since then, that's the one lesson he needed to learn. And he learned it early against Neil Magny. So I think in this fight with Gilbert Burns, he's not going to make that mistake. He's not going to try to pursue a finish with reckless abandonment. I think he's going to go with the flow of the fight, and he's going to create opportunities for him to have success. I think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, and I think the stance changes. I think he's going to walk Gilbert Burns into some big shots. I think Mike Malott's going to get the job done in 3 or 4. So I'm going with Mike Malott in this fight, but if it goes the distance, I wouldn't be surprised, especially if Gilbert wants to implement his wrestling. I still think Mike will be able to stop the takedowns, but I just think it's going to make it a longer affair. It's going to give it higher probability of going to a decision. So we'll see what happens. How this fight ends really depends on what Gilbert Burns does. But I do feel like no matter what Gilbert Burns does, it's not going to be enough to beat Mike. And I think Mike's going to have a number next to his name come Monday morning. Those are my predictions for Winnipeg. Guys, I'm freaking pumped. We'll do a recap show real quick when I'm at the desk. Shoot a quick selfie video on my phone. And much love. Keep watching the videos. Subscribe. Love you guys. Enjoy the fights.